Det är den 4 juni, börsen är upp, det är bud, det är stora utdelningar, det är jätteaffärer med USA och vi är ute på fältet. Varmt välkomna till Börslunch.
Ja, så är det. Vi är kvar på Handelsbankens små- och midcap-seminarium och med oss idag så har vi en klassiker, Joe Tracy, mäklare på Handelsbanken.
Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure.
And especially today we have a new guest all the way from Germany, Köhn from the German fund.
Yeah,
German fund. Köhn Kerkhoff, sorry. Good to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the company you are.
Yeah, we just created our own fund, which is now live for 16 months, having a good journey, let me say it that way, focusing only on small mid-cap Scandinavian DACH region. I would even say it could be like a quite interesting timing.
Yeah.
Good to have
and
you here.
just I'll note that Max's fund was rated the best newcoming fund in Germany last year. So congratulations to that.
Last night you told me he was a rock star.
He's a rock star. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the mood here at the conference so far? You talked to a lot of CEOs, a lot of other investors. Any impressions you want to share?
I would even say the uncertainty is quite high still regarding Trump tariffs, but I think everyone tries to work with that. So I mean, like FX is hurting quite a lot of people, but on the other hand, it could be even quite an advantage to be like in the Nordics and not being perhaps in China, where you have seen probably higher tariffs than here from Europe.
Yeah, and I can add on that. I mean, we have a record number of foreign investors. Very proud of the team. They have so many that came to Stockholm for our event. I think Max has been here. This is 6 years running. And a lot of people come. So I think what I am noticing is there's a little bit less of a pressure from the tariffs. It seems like it's working. And we go back to 2016 when the tariffs and everyone was panicking. I think the tariff news is becoming less and less of a headwind to the markets. And as what we're seeing in the hard data. And the companies that seem to be good. And we met with a company yesterday. Maybe we could touch on the Ambu.
Yeah.
And
it's more like trying to work with it. I think that's an important thing what you just said. It's like the normal situation right now. Yeah, we're going to see some tariffs, yes, no, and it doesn't matter. At the end, you're trying to get your market share, and especially in the US, for instance, a lot of competitors came in from China, and China having then higher actually.
So it's also relative tariff gain.
That's the point.
Absolutely. And I know when we were on early in the year when everyone was talking about the tariffs, and I said, well, guys, wait until Trump and Xi do a deal, President Trump and President Xi do a deal. Then we're going to see the markets go well. It did. So we got that right. But now I think the key is wait till deals come from other countries that want to get on board with America, that want to be more in America. So I think it's going to be Japan. It's going to be South. It's going to be all over.
So you're not surprised by that? I think it's a remarkable rebound in stock sentiment overall, quite positive.
All-time high today, I think.
Yeah. Fair point. On the other hand, you can argue like we had like a quite bad years 3 years ago. Small mid-caps, nobody was really into small mid-caps, especially in Europe. And even if you just compare like Europe, small mid-caps versus large caps, you have like still a huge discount. So I mean like the valuation of small mid-caps in Europe especially is quite low compared to the large caps.
And one thing I might want to add, remember, it's so important that we're seeing money coming out of America into Europe. But what we're also seeing is money staying in Europe. And then we can touch on Germany and Sweden.
We're going to touch more on that. Any other thing? You mentioned Ambu, the Danish, it's a medtech company, right?
Yep.
Looking inside the body, examining
with endoscopes, yeah.
endoscopes. Had a good presentation here? Or?
Having a quite decent presentation, I would say.
Yeah.
And what I was even quite surprised, of course, FX is an issue, fair point. But on the other hand, they actually benefit from the tariffs because they are the major competitors are from China. And if you are going to see 40-50% tariffs of Chinese medtech companies, obviously they are not profitable anymore.
And they have operations in Mexico as well.
But do I get right if you will soon going into the Q2 and there's been a lot of uncertainty going forward in Q2, everyone's looking at the outlook in Q1. Is it more of an FX?
Yeah.
Should we worry more about FX than tariffs in Q2? Does that mean that Q2 could be an upside surprise?
Honestly, I think what we have seen right now is like a lot of companies which were quite uncertain. They cut the guidance already in Q1, but now having like only FX as a risk, and you are obviously adjusted your growth by FX, you are fine.
Yeah, and if you look at FX are long-turning moves, and FX that's getting stronger or weaker takes time. So you really can't buy a company on FX because they can, like you said, they can cut that in the earnings. But I think they will benefit 100%. little bit China right now.
And my experience is that, the market usually look past the aspects.
Yes.
More of a-
I have another
Yeah.
question. The dollar is at 9.6 Swedish kronor now. I'm going to the US for 4th of July. Should I postpone the trip and go in December instead? Will I have better purchasing power at the end of the year?
Well, since you're talking dollar crown, I look at it all the time as well. We went from over 11 now to 960. I have a feeling maybe in a year's time we'll be probably somewhere between 950 and 850. I definitely see. I really believe that because I think the currency, but we could bounce a little bit between 950 and 10. But I believe historically we're seeing a stronger SEK, we're seeing a stronger euro, and then down the road, as we all say, I think the SEK needs to get stronger so we become a euro as well. But that's maybe 4 or 5 years. But we can't do it now when SEK is at 960. Or worse.
I'm making a reservation at Smith and Valencia immediately.
Ready.
All right. In other news in Swedish. Swedbank har kapitalmarknadsdag idag. Inga stora nyheter där annat än att Bo Lundgren gör comeback i ägarorganisationen. Behåller finansierade mål om avkastning på eget kapital av 15%. Autoliv, också kapitalmarknadsdag, börjar klockan 1. Den aktien handlas upp på besked om utdelning och återköp av aktier, även om de flesta mål, de som jag läste, ligger kvar i linje med tidigare kommunicerat. Och så bud som sagt på projektengagemang ifrån den större rivalen Sweco. 15 kronor rejäl budpremie, aktien var upp över 100% i den tidiga handeln. Slutligen Camurus, and we talked about Camurus or Exo through the years. Camurus has been here presenting, and they presented a big deal with Eli Lilly, but tell me about the presentation. Yes,
Yes, the presentation wasn't that good, honestly. They do have some issues right now with the trucks in the US. You see it on the TRX data, so meaning on subscription data in the US, and it looks not that amazing. But the issues like, I was in the presentation, I was saying, it's probably not the best fit right now, but the deal today is like really good, honestly.
Yeah.
But you have to say it's like really long-term. So if you're just looking on analysts, nobody has it in their pipeline already. It's like 0% on the NPV.
Well, I know Susanna, she highlighted the pen that it could happen.
All right.
It was maybe a year ago. And then boom, it comes.
And if you look at the deal, it's one part R&D milestones, and then one sales milestone. I guess the sale part is like an option.
Yeah, it's just like a free option, totally free.
but Eli Lilly, that's a wonderful partner to have.
It's a big one. It's a big one, especially in the US.
And let's talk obesity. Obesity is, it's the market. Unfortunately, it's growing and growing and growing. People are getting bigger. So that's where everyone's highlighting. We do have another company that was here. We just met Gubra, which does the amycretin drugs.
Also Danish, like Novo
Also
Nordisk.
Danish, exactly. So, there's a lot of focus on obesity these days. And I guess it was great for Kamaris and Lilly.
Thoughts on Gubra? Did you see?
Yeah, we like Gubra. Share price, honestly, they had an amazing deal with AbbVie in March. Share price since then was tanked, honestly, like 40%. Now, really interesting, they use the cash now to pay first time a dividend. And the dividend is like with a 14% yield. So it's like massive. And still, even if they're paying the dividend, they still have a lot of cash in the bank account.
And they can get royalties eventually.
Royalties on top. But right now, it's like for the next 3 years, you're fine and having a biotech name, which is like quite binary. On the other hand, you're having a dividend, which is like amazing.
Gubra with a G. I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Camurus is up 30 plus.
Yeah, it's like, that's the deal is good. That's good.
Unhappy shareholders today.
I forgot to mention Sweden scores another big win when Brookfield comes in, wanting to build AI centers in Strängnäs for 95 billion Swedish kronor. That's not I don't know if Brookfield is even listed, but it's a nice news for Sweden.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty tight with one of the head of the Brookfield in Sweden, Mr. Lars Roder. So, and he was actually going to see us. He said, "Joe, I'm working on something big." So, congratulations to Lars and Brookfield.
I have to ask you, Max, about your fund. What's the geographical split? How do you?
Yeah, so we are focusing only on Scandinavian DACH region.
Okay.
Especially like why we are doing that is quite interesting because they are the innovative countries in Europe.
Yeah.
And then Scandic is 40% roughly of our
40%.
Yeah, so it's quite heavy. And therefore we are at least twice a month here in Stockholm or in Denmark.
So 40% Scandi, 60% German-speaking European countries.
That's what,
essentially.
yeah. Switzerland, for instance, Austria.
I would imagine a lot of defense stocks in this this region.
Let me say it was like would have been quite good. Unfortunately, we are not buying defense directly, but we are more like, for instance, in the Klarvester, which means like a cybersecurity company doing amazing. But you have that in Germany as well. So we are not in the direct weapons, but we are more on the software, for instance. And then we do have like in other good names actually in from the Scandics, Keton, Conton.
Yeah, I mean, the military names have really helped.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Will they continue to?
Well, just read the newspaper. All the money, infrastructure bill in Germany. I mean, how money of GDP 5%, and listen, there's a war going on, so a lot of military equipment is being depleted. So I think even with the war ends, they're going to have to build the ACE systems, maybe build in Ukraine. So the best way to prevent the war is to not have a war, and how to do that is building up. Ronald Reagan building up so strong.
What happened to peace and friendship?
Well, that's how you build peace through strength. You know?
So
I want to touch, go back to.
I don't want to let go because the camera guy. The camera guy asked me specifically, could I buy defense stocks now, or are they too richly valuated? I take it from you that there's still upside to be had.
I 100%, yeah.
There's upside, but on the other hand, you can even argue like, what is going to happen if Trump is going to get a deal? And a deal means like Ukraine, Russia, perhaps you're going to see no war anymore. So that could be like quite good. And it's like always we have seen in the past, it's always sentiment.
Yeah.
And if the sentiment is going to turn around, you probably have to sell those names as well.
Very interesting.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No. It was a fair question, and I hope our cameraman got the answer.
He's trading at
He's
that.
trading right now. No, I want to go back to the seminar. We talked about the mood among the companies, and now let's talk about the mood among the investors. Yes, Max is one, but what have you seen? We talked about Embracer, for instance.
Well, it's interesting enough. I usually say an old saying. I look for the companies that have the least investors. Where are they going in? Because you could find some gold. And I mean, think of investor. I mean, go back a few years. It was probably the most packed room of the house.
In
it was, of course, growth through acquisition. They bought gaming companies, and now it was almost like you look around. It was okay. It was a good presentation. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different company now. Now they're basically fixing the balance sheet, they're divesting, they're bringing it down. So it's interesting how things can go up and down.
Yeah.
But you should buy the stock of the room with few people in it, right?
You can make some money. I mean, you can get burnt too. I mean, it happens, but but that's where you can find some gold. And that's why I think we have so many investors that come to our seminar looking for these very interesting small mid-cap, the Swedish names, especially medtech, which is a sector that you know very well, and software, gaming, military. I mean, come on, Invisio, you got so many names.
We have a chart with winners and losers from last year. I believe you put together some history. While we dig that up, I think on the loser side, you have some healthcare names that's rather binary by nature. Any thoughts on the losers? There we see the names.
Yeah, like quite binary, even on Egetis, for instance, Denna Medical having an issue on their trial as well. So yeah, and on the winner side, obviously, Klarvista and all, or Mildev, and even Invisio is like a lot of defense names, because obviously last year nobody was interested in those names. And now it's like changing.
And when the defense contract doesn't happen for a month. Defense contract has for years.
Yeah.
So defense and software, incredible. So.
Should we take a look at some small cap charts? I want to touch on that again and look at the valuations.
Yeah, I was against this chart because we looked at so many small cap underperforming large cap, but this one is actually kind of the opposite message.
Okay.
There are two charts here. The first one on the left side is the performance year to date. Small cap is doing better, which surprised the both of us. And the other one is the valuation, and especially take a look at compared to S&P.
Well, listen, I always say the market moves first. I always say follow the banks, follow the market. Follow the trucks, follow the market. But if you follow the large caps, usually go first, then the small mid caps come later.
So when the flows were coming back to Europe, the money goes to large cap first.
Yes. Yeah. And I always say greed will find the stocks. I mean, if they're cheap, they're for a reason, but usually when money comes back, if you're in the right sector is always important. And if you can time it right, you can do very well. You can have gains. And then you have to look at where the ETF flows are going, what the passive money is doing. So all in all, I think it's a really interesting time for many smaller caps.
We have an ECB meeting tomorrow, if I'm not wrong, does lower rates matter for choosing between small and large cap stocks?
Listen, lower rates are always good for equities in general. It's good for everybody, and we like that. And yeah, we should absolutely help benefit small companies that have the need to borrow money. It makes it easy for them to do investments. So absolutely.
Any thoughts on
No.
small cap space?
I would even say it's quite interesting because in the couple of last years or decades, we always have seen that small caps have to have a premium compared to large caps. It's quite easy to argument because a smaller company can grow even faster than a large cap, and therefore there has to be a premium. But unfortunately, after the last 3 years, it turns around to a discount. It means like we're having like a huge discount to small caps compared to large caps, and therefore, hopefully, better interest rates or lower interest rates and perhaps less uncertainty change that momentum again, and we're going to see hopefully again a premium for small caps.
Yeah, and make no mistake, we have underperformed the past years.
Yeah.
We know that, and it's time.
And about that, when you saw that chart with the valuation compared to S&P 500, it's still such a huge gap. You were saying before that the money stay in Europe.
I believe that.
Does that mean you believe the gap will continue to close, or
It should.
in the coming years?
Absolutely. I think it should. I think it absolutely should. And I think you're going to see that, as we said in the currencies before earlier, I think the euro currencies are going to be stronger versus the dollar, and more money is coming back. And people are looking for the right company to invest in.
I think a valid question is, just like you think defense stocks are highly evaluated, we have a chart of flows going from Europe to the US. It's been going for a while now, but it's far from over. Or what do you think?
I think it's far from over. I mean, listen, we've underperformed for almost a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Europe's time to shine, and everyone is so positive. I'm going to say it for you, is Germany. It seems like I speak to you guys, you've been, very negative on what's going on in the political landscape, but it seems like you're being more positive.
Yeah, at least with the new government, honestly, and more sentiment for the market. Yeah, it helps because the uncertainty is not there.
And if you take the passive flows into Europe, is that the leading indicator? Because we've been talking to a lot of active fund managers like you that they have actually done the same move. Not maybe as much as the passive money, but they are doing.
I would say this, it probably makes it hard for some of the active managers, because when you see the passive money or the ETF flows go off in one direction, they need to be on that bandwagon. And sometimes some of the companies that shouldn't be going are going along for a ride, and they're performing when they really shouldn't be. So it could be trickier, making your life, I want to say, harder. But you've been able to manage it pretty good.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It's still like, this is like a stock picking market, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be quite close to the companies, and if you're in a good shape with the management and have a good discussion, you can still find quite good hidden champions.
Any other region or sector that you look at?
Our focus is actually mainly healthcare and technology. Mainly 50% of our portfolio is healthcare technology. Yeah, but they are great companies out there, and that's I think quite important. The money is going into the ETFs, and they're buying the large caps. If you're just having a discussion with family office, for instance, you can't buy a small mid cap ETF. It's quite tough. So you have to go to the active fund managers.
And I'll say this, I mean, I cover the Swedish companies for years, and sometimes I get a guy, Max and his partner, Renee, call me and say, hey, I found this interesting company, Carnov Group. It's Carnov. We met them this morning. What an amazing company. AI, basically for law firms. Maybe you can touch on it.
Totally, what they do have a software for law firms or lawyers, for instance, where they actually have all the data, and then you have AI on top of that, and you can just even search for different lawyers or court decisions, and this makes your life quite easy.
I have one last question. You like technology, you like innovation.
Yes.
We talked about Embracer in maybe not so positive words. Is that something you would look at?
So we had it in the past, obviously, but the issue with those kind of gaming names, they all rely honestly on those kinds of those 3 A's. So I mean like the really big
titles,
really big games. And this is always like kind of a binary event. If you're going to see a delay of 6 months, this is going to hurt quite heavily. And therefore we are not that interested in those names right now.
Yeah, I don't want to sound so negative on Embracer, because I think they are doing the right things. They are fixing the balance sheet.
And they had to.
Yeah, they were forced to. I mean, it was Wild West for a few years there.
But you can turn it around. I mean, you can twist the argument and say, look, maybe the AAA names are going to come, and it's generously or cheaply priced at the moment. Who knows?
Fair point. And the spin-off was even quite good.
Yeah, guys, timing is everything.
Yeah, time is up. Yes, but I just got the rating here. Joe Tracy rated AAA plus. Köhn rated AAA plus as well.
You have.
Oh, we get a solid B.
Nej,
Thank you guys. It was wonderful. Tack ni som tittat. Ses igen imorgon. Samma tid, samma kanal.